Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Well, I'm back up here on this dam bank with these beautiful farm subjects in front of me. What I'm going to be doing tonight is shooting some more motion time lapses featuring my Zeapon equipment, the slider. Now, I'm just here sort of in a bit of a predicament because I don't know exactly which of these things to actually feature. You may remember a few weeks ago I featured this end of this hay rake here with a time lapse. It wasn't a motion time lapse, it was just a static time lapse with a 35mm lens. I loved that time lapse, by the way, but there is one other subject up here. I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so just have a look at this little beauty. Now, some of you are saying, yeah, okay, we've seen this before. You've done this before. Well, yes and no. I have done this before. But this little trike is a different trike to the one you might be thinking of, where I did do a time lapse up here, but in a different, a little bit different orientation. I found this one, and it's got so much character. Look, it's got a bent back wheel, no seat, it's got rust all over it, but you know what? It may well work just as well as the other subject for a motion time lapse. I'll tell you what, I've got a few things against me here. That's right on top of an ant nest. I'm hoping those little critters go to sleep tonight, because at the moment there's a few of them there. But apart from that, look, it's facing in the right direction. The hard part here and over there is actually going to be getting my slider nice and low but level, because this ground, as you can see, slopes down pretty dramatically. Hey, look, if it was all really easy, we'd all be doing it, wouldn't we? So we've got to overcome some challenges, but you know, I'm up for the challenge. Anyway, besides this, there's also one other subject that I'm going to be doing a time-lapse slide movement on. So let's go and have a look at that one. Okay, so here we are at another of my favorite subjects. Now, yes, I have shot this one as well in the past, but I've never done a time-lapse, much less a motion time-lapse. So this old plow sitting on this rise here, it lends itself perfectly for what I've got in mind. And what I've got in mind is to put my camera and slider here. Probably, let me see, probably about 1, 2, perhaps 3 meters away from this wheel. So quite close, because what I'm going to be doing is using one of my Nikon Z6 cameras with the Laowa 15mm f2 lens. Oh man, mosquitoes. So I'm by a creek here. So it's a little bit warm, so there's going to be mozzies out tonight. I'm going to have to put the bug spray on. So I'll have my slider nice and low. Once again, so I've got a view up into the sky. And of course, the reason this is here on this mound is so that we can get that view. Now over here behind me, there's a beautiful area of clear sky. And that is where the Milky Way core is going to rise up tonight. And what I'm going to do is cross light this image. So I'm going to have one light over here, one light down there, camera here. So there's, I don't know, it's almost, oh, go away. It's almost a 90-degree separation between the camera and the lights. The biggest problem when you're doing a time lapse, especially a motion time lapse, the camera, oh man, the camera is sliding along, and sometimes you find the lights get revealed as the camera moves. 15mm is quite a large field of view. So I've got to be careful to conceal that light down there out of the way. Now, as far as the lighting is concerned, I'm going to put one here, right next to this tree. And it's going to be set onto a light stand, probably about this high. Now, one of the things that I like to do when I'm using lighting is to keep the light fairly low so that when it skims across this grass here, it's actually giving shadow and shape, and the light actually falls off as it comes from this point across the scene. Now, if I have my light way up here somewhere, it's going to be shining down onto the subject. And whilst the subject itself might look okay, I don't think this ground in the foreground is going to look anywhere near as good. And remember, I've got a motion time-lapse happening, so the camera is sliding across. And so it's sliding across at a pretty low height above that grass. And I think that will look better if the light is low down. So that's my plan for this side. My plan is to shoot at f2.8, 15-second shutter speed at ISO 6400. Now I know those settings work, but what I will do is do some test shots because whilst I know those settings are good for the background, I'm not 100% sure how my lighting on the foreground will look. So what you have to do is trial and error. So because these lights are going to be on for the full duration, this is going to go for 3.5 hours. So this light here will be on a very low level. I'm going to put another one right down here, probably way down, I don't know, maybe about here somewhere. Yep, sure enough, there's another ant nest right here. And as soon as I just walked across, they all come out. Vicious little monsters they are. Anyway, look, at night time, I know they're not quite so prevalent, but what I'm going to be doing is putting my lights somewhere here, right down on the ground. And this is probably, let me get away from there. This is probably about, hang on, got to get further away. This is probably about 15 meters from my subject. So my light down here, I need to be that far away because otherwise it's going to be revealed when the camera slides through the scene. I've got quite a bit of tall grass here in the foreground which will hide it, and I've also possibly have to put some bark or something that I can find around here to actually stop the beam from hitting oh man, I've got mosquitoes and I've got ants. What else could I find around here? To be honest, it's good snake territory, but I can't see any. I'm not going into that long grass. I hope it'll work. Sorry, I'm getting distracted here. So once again, low level lighting. So the key to low level lighting is to get that adjustment of the amount of intensity of light dialed in. And remember, I've said to you before, when it comes to lighting, it doesn't matter whether it's torch light painting or low level lighting, there are 3 dimensions to lighting. 1, how bright is my light? 2, how far is my light from my subject? And 3, how long is my light on? Now, in this case, I'm ruling out the 3rd one because the light is on for the full duration of the shots. So I have to make sure that I adjust my brightness level and the distance back from the subject to get the right exposure. And that's where the test shots will come in vitally important. One of the advantages of coming out here at this time of night, the sun has just set down, we've got this gorgeous belt of Venus glow around the horizon, right around there. Don't know if you can see it on camera, but it looks absolutely awesome. All right, well, I'll be back here tonight to shoot on these 2 locations. Don't know how I'm going to go. Weather's pretty good. The wind's just getting up slightly, but I hope it drops later on, and that should be ideal. All right, let's get on the road. Okay, well, I've made my decision and I'm coming here to the little tricycle to shoot. So I'm going to set up my Zeapon slider, which is in the bag here. So I'm going to get that out and just work out exactly where I'm going to put it. It's beautiful, clear, not much wind. In fact, I'd say it's an ideal night for shooting. Okay, so here's my Zeapon E800 motorized slider. Now, since the last time I used this, I've made a bit of a modification. Very simple, really. I've just undo these little freestanding legs that are designed to work when you sit on a flat table. And I just made up these little brackets with a quick release plate underneath. And that's just going to slip on there like that on both of them. And you can see it comes through the bracket. The idea of that is just so that I can fit it onto small tripods to get it nice and low down to the ground, because this ground here is definitely not level. I've already tried it out a couple of times and it seems to work. Oh, those mozzies, they're back again. Seems to work quite well. All right, so what I'm doing here is I'm taking some test shots to line up and make sure I've got the trike when the slider's at both extreme ends. So I want to make sure I don't lose it. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm using my 35mm f1.8 Nikon lens with the Z6. It's about an 800mm slide from one side to the other. I've got the tricycle here. I'm about maximum 2 meters from the trike. I'm focused onto the tricycle itself. So I'm right focused here. I'm at f2.2, 10-second shutter speed at ISO 4000. And I've got 2 lights on either side, which are shining onto cross-lighting the trike. The other thing I've done here to set this slider up, I've got a little spirit level here just to sit on there and make sure it's level on both axes. And in fact, on this axis, I'm making sure it's leaning forward just a fraction. And the reason I'm doing that, well, it's pretty obvious. The ground here is not level. So I'm just making sure, giving it a little bit more lean forward. And you can see I've got these little tripods which are holding up the whole thing on both ends, which work really well with my little arrangement that I've manufactured on the end. And yeah, I'm actually really happy with this. I think it's going to come out really well. And now I'm going to show you my lights. So I'm using, on this little tripod here, this is a Ulanzi, and I've got the ability to change the color temperature on the back of this. So this is a Ulanzi VL49 RGB light. It's on 1% power at 4000 Kelvin. So the color temperature is at 4000 Kelvin. That's the advantage of using these lights as opposed to any other type of light. I can actually adjust the color temperature. And I found sometimes when I'm using the video lights that I often use, it's just that little bit orange. So you can see the other one over here. Let's go and have a look. Exactly the same setup. This one's on a light stand which is a little bit taller, and there it is there, exactly the same. Ulanzi, 4000 Kelvin, 1%, and it's just sitting there cross lighting. You probably can't see the trike from here, but it is, let me tell you, hang on, there it is up there. So that's about, let me step it out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 meters away from the trike at that one. The other one is probably about 4 meters away the other direction. So that means that one light is fractionally brighter than the other, and that's deliberate. And here's my slider setup just there. Okay, so you can see on my camera setup here, what I'm doing is using the interval timer. So if I go over there, I'm going to set my timer to an interval of 15 seconds, which means I'm going to be shooting a 10-second shutter speed with a 5-second interval, because you have to add the shutter speed to the interval that you want on camera. I'm going to take 800 images. Yeah, so that adds up to a 3.5 hour duration between one slide and the other slide. So it's going to be a 3.5 hours, 800 shots, 15-second interval. So I'm setting the camera up to 10-second shutter speeds, f2.2 ISO 4000. This is the app for the Zeapon slider, and I'm making this thing roll along constantly all the way along the frame. So I'm not doing move, shoot, move. It's slowly moving for 3.5 hours. So all I simply need to do is check 1 second shutter speed, 1 second interval time. That means it just crawls along very slowly. And then all I have to do is select the number of photos at 25 frames per second. That gives me about 3.5 hours, which I've just done there at 6,375 photos. I'm certainly not taking that many photos because there's no cable connected to the camera. The camera is actually doing its own time lapse. I'm just simply using this to make the slider crawl across the frame very, very slowly. Okie dokie, so I am very excited to start this time lapse going. So to do that, all I have to do is make sure my lights are on where they are. Yes, they are. Set up my menu here. Turn my light off. Click start and click start. And away we go. We are rolling. Woohoo, this is exciting. Now, I was absolutely delighted with that time lapse, and why wouldn't you be? It just came out so well. So I made my way back to the old plow on the next night, and what an amazing adventure this was. The sky was just this amazing green color, and there was air glow all through the sky. So I had the Z6 and the Laowa 15, so a much wider field of view for this shot. So I set the time lapse up probably only a couple of meters back from the plow, and being a wider field of view, I was pretty happy with that focus. f2.8 ISO 6400. And so I did a number of test shots just to make sure my slide was going to be in the right position. And then of course I had to set my lights, and the lights, as I showed you, were going to be on that cross lighting, which is pretty much what I always do when I use low level lights. I tend to put one off to the left and one off to the right. I set my camera to, I think it was around about 4,500 Kelvin. I may have lowered that a little bit because of the green air globe. This shot, absolutely amazing. Now, as I was on my way back from that plough shoot, I walked past this old shed. I saw another opportunity for a time lapse, and I was thinking, do I or don't I? Because I was pretty tired by this stage. But the Milky Way was right up above the top of this tree and over the top of these rafters. Now you can see on the side there, a lot of those posts, well, the whole thing's collapsing. But I sort of took the opportunity. I thought I could shoot up and pan around. So I used my Zeapon PONS. So that's just a rotating base. And I set the camera up just over here. And once again, I made use of low level lighting. All right, so what I had with me were these couple of Ulanzi eye lights. Now these ones I haven't used before. One of the advantages though, is that they've got magnets on the back. So I can just stick it up to something like that and put it down to its lowest level. Now I'll put it down to 1%. That's as low as it goes. The other thing is it's a color changeable, temperature changeable light. The only problem I found though was that I needed to dim that light even further because these seem to be a bit brighter than the other lights. So how did I do that? Well, I'm glad you asked that question. So in every good camera bag, we should always carry a white towel, something like this. And all I did was just throw it over the top, just like that. There was no wind, I didn't have to worry about any of that, and that towel dropped the intensity of that light by probably about half, and that was just perfect for what I was trying to do here. All right, so of course I needed another light to light from this side. Remember, I always do the cross lighting, one on one side, one on the other. So I had my other eye light, and I went down here because I'm looking for that angle. So that's about the 90-degree off-camera angle. And because of the magnet that's built into these lights, I can stick it there on the fence. Have a look at that. And another piece of towel, just wrap it around the light. And there you go, Bob's your uncle. I've got another very low level light source over here, cross-lighting my scene, and it works an absolute treat. And so there you are. In this video, I used 3 different types of light. Firstly, my Z96 video light, which has the orange gel, which you can take off to change the color temperature. Cheap light stand like this is all you need. And there are occasions where you want to use a small light stand like this to get really close to the ground. And you saw that I did do that with this little Ulanzi RGB light on the time lapse of the little tricycle, and that worked a treat as well. So that was going for about 3.5 hours. No issue at all with battery life, and I had 2 of those going. I reckon that would have gone all night without any trouble. And the 1% level on this light was absolutely excellent. So I had no issues at all with this one. Really, really good. So there you go. 3 different time lapses, 3 different lighting setups, basically the same concepts to light all 3. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it helps you with your understanding of how to use and set up low-level lighting. To be honest, you can use any light really for low-level lights, but as I said, the more you can dim it down, the better, especially when your subjects are reasonably close. Different effects, different lenses, but the sky's the limit. It's all about creativity. So I hope you enjoyed this video and part of my ongoing series of lighting for nightscape photography. All right, look forward to seeing you next time. Love to read your comments down below. See you later.